Have you ever wondered why some people, starting from nothing, rise to unimaginable levels of wealth, while others, despite working hard all their lives, struggle just to survive? It's not luck. It's not even about money. It's about mindset. The truth is, millionaires don't just think differently about money. They think differently about life. And today, I want to share that secret with you. Think about this. Most people grow up hearing the same voices. Money doesn't grow on trees. Be realistic. Play it safe. But millionaires, they hear something else. Or more importantly, they decide to believe something else. Where the average person sees risk, they see opportunity. Where the average person says, I can't afford that, they ask, how can I afford that? It's a tiny shift in words, but it creates an ocean of difference in results. Let me give you an example. J.K. Rowling was a single mother broke, sitting in coffee shops writing a story no publisher wanted. But she didn't ask, what if I fail? She asked, what if it works? Today, she's a billionaire. Millionaires don't silence doubt by pretending it's not there. They silence doubt by giving faith a louder voice. Here's the real secret. Millionaires understand that wealth is not something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming more valuable. Think of it like gravity. If you're heavy with value, skills, knowledge, solutions, you naturally pull money toward you. If you're light, complaining, blaming, waiting, you repel it. So the question isn't, how do I get more money? The real question is, how do I become more valuable? I'll tell you another truth. Most people trade time for money. Work 1 hour, get paid once. Millionaires trade value for money. Create something once, get paid over and over. That's why they build businesses, write books, invest in assets. They don't ask, how much will this cost me? They ask, how long will this serve me? But here's the hardest part. Millionaire thinking requires you to be uncomfortable. It means failing in public. It means risking embarrassment. It means people will doubt you, laugh at you, even call you crazy. But let me ask you, would you rather be called crazy for a few years or broke for a lifetime? The secret mindset of millionaires isn't about money at all. It's about freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your days. Freedom to give without fear. Freedom to live life on your terms. And the door to that freedom doesn't open with luck. It opens with mindset. Here are some key points related to this. No one, millionaires don't think about money the same way as others. They think in terms of value and opportunity. No, two, they ask empowering questions like, how can I afford this? Instead of limiting ones like, I can't afford it. No, three, wealth is not chased. It's attracted by becoming more valuable. No, four, millionaires focus on creating assets and value that pay repeatedly, not just trading time for money. No, five, growth requires discomfort. Failure, risk, and being misunderstood are part of the process. No, six, the ultimate goal isn't money itself, but freedom and the power to live life on your own terms. When you look closely at the lives of millionaires, what immediately stands out is not their bank accounts, not their luxury cars, not their glittering homes, but the way they think about the world compared to how most people do. Imagine two people standing at the edge of the same field. One looks out and sees weeds, endless work, and exhaustion, while the other looks at the same ground and sees fertile soil, possibilities, and a future harvest. The field hasn't changed. The weeds are still there. The soil is the same. But their perspective, their mindset, transforms the entire picture. This is the difference between the average thinker and the millionaire thinker. The average person grows up surrounded by voices that install limits into their minds. From childhood, they hear phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees. Be satisfied with what you have. Don't aim too high. You'll just get disappointed. These messages seep into subconscious like drops of water carving stone, slowly shaping beliefs that feel permanent. A child who hears we can't afford that doesn't just think about the price of a toy. They begin to internalize a belief that life is restricted, that dreams must shrink to fit circumstances, that money is something always scarce, always out of reach. And what's worse, they grow up carrying those beliefs into adulthood, never questioning them, never realizing that the cage is not made of steel, but of words. Millionaires, on the other hand, flip the script. They do not deny that challenges exist, but they choose to interpret those challenges differently. Where most people ask, what if I fail? The millionaire asks, what if I succeed? It seems like such a small shift, doesn't it? But this is the seed of transformation. Words are not just sounds. They are commands to the brain. When someone repeats, I can't afford that, their brain shuts down at accept defeat. It stops searching for possibilities. But when someone asks, how can I afford that? Their brain begins a hunt. It scans the environment for opportunities. It stretches. It grows. The difference is like locking a door and throwing away the key versus pushing it open and stepping outside into new horizons. Take the story of Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, who went from selling fax machines door to door to building a billion-dollar empire. She once said her father used to ask her every week at the dinner table, what did you fail at this week? To most parents, failure is something to avoid, to be ashamed of, but in her home, failure was proof of trying, proof of courage, proof of growth. That mindset taught her not to fear rejection, but to embrace it. She didn't let the word no close doors in her mind. Instead, she let it sharpen her resolve. That's millionaire thinking. Choosing interpretations that expand you instead of shrink you. And think about Thomas Edison, who famously said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. To the average person, 10,000 failed attempts is proof of impossibility, proof that they should quit. But to Edison, it was simply part of the process, a staircase with 10,000 steps leading toward the invention of the light bulb. His mindset was not defined by defeat, but by persistence, and that persistence gave light to the entire world. Again, it's not the circumstances that set people apart. It's the way they think about those circumstances. Consider for a moment your own life. How many times have you wanted something but immediately told yourself, I can't. It's not realistic. I don't have the resources. How many times did you kill a dream before it even had a chance to take its first breath? That inner voice of limitation is not the truth. It's conditioning, a set of beliefs you inherited, not facts written in stone. Millionaires understand this and actively rewire their minds. They feed themselves new thoughts the way they feed their bodies food. They choose words that empower instead of weaken. They practice seeing possibility where others see dead ends. It's like looking at a locked door, and instead of walking away, they start asking, where's the key? What if I can build one? What if I can climb through the window? They don't accept walls as permanent. They look for ways to break them, climb them, or redesign them. Even in everyday scenarios, this difference shows. Picture two people who both lose their jobs unexpectedly. One sinks into despair, thinking, this is terrible. My life is over. I'll never recover. The other feels the same fear at first, but then reframes it. This is painful, but maybe it's an opportunity to start something new. Maybe it's the push I needed to chase a business idea I've been sitting on. The same event, the same pain, yet the mindset transforms the direction of their lives. One person spirals downward, the other rises. The millionaire mindset is not about denying struggle. It's about redefining it. There's a story of two brothers who grew up with an alcoholic father. One became an alcoholic himself. The other became a successful businessman. When asked why, both gave the same answer. Because my father was an alcoholic. One used it as an excuse to repeat the cycle. The other used it as motivation to break free. This is a heart of mindset. It's not the event that defines you. It's the meaning you attach to it. Millionaires attach empowering meanings. They take pain and turn it into fuel. They take rejection and turn it into redirection. They take scarcity and turn it into innovation. So, when I tell you that millionaires think differently, it's not a cliche. It's the very essence of how they operate. They train themselves to see doors where others see walls. They condition themselves to ask better questions, to turn I can't into how can I? They refuse to let old voices of limitation dictate their destiny. And the most powerful truth in all this, you can do the same. Because the mind is not fixed, it's moldable. Beliefs can be unlearned, perspectives can be reshaped, and voices can be silenced. The difference between the person who stays stuck and the person who rises is not intelligence, not luck, not even talent. It's the courage to think differently when everyone else thinks the same. Most people don't realize how much the questions they ask themselves shape their entire lives. A single sentence, whispered in your mind, can either open doors or slam them shut. Think about the common phrase, "I can't afford that." On the surface, it looks harmless, just a statement of fact, but beneath it, there is something far more powerful at work. It is a declaration of limitation, a command to the brain to stop searching. The moment you say, "I can't," your mind shuts down its creative engine and no solutions are born. But now imagine flipping that same thought into, "How can I afford that?" Suddenly the brain wakes up, starts firing, starts connecting dots you didn't even know existed. That one word, "how," transforms a dead end into a doorway. Millionaires understand this truth better than anyone. They discipline themselves to ask empowering questions because they know their minds will always go searching for answers. When you ask a small question, you get a small life. When you ask a big question, you expand your life. Imagine two people standing in front of the same obstacle. Say a business idea that requires $50,000 in startup capital. The first person says, "I can't afford this. It's too much. It's impossible." And just like that, the dream is buried before it even had a chance to live. The second person looks at the same challenge and asks, "How can I find $50,000? How can I start smaller? Who might invest? What skills do I already have that could generate income?" That shift doesn't magically put money in their pocket, but it sets their brain on a hunt, and that hunt often leads them to opportunities the first person will never see. Tony Robbins once said, "Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers." That isn't motivational fluff. It's neuroscience. The human brain is like a search engine. Whatever you type in, it works day and night to deliver results. Type in, "Why am I such a failure?" And it will dig through your memories and pull up every embarrassing mistake, every moment of weakness, every time someone doubted you. But type in, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow? What's my next step?" And suddenly the same brain pulls up creativity, resilience, hidden resources, even courage you forgot you had. Millionaires don't just control their money. They control their internal questions. Think of Elon Musk. When he was told rockets were too expensive, his question wasn't, "Why can't I build rockets like NASA?" But, "How can I build them cheaper? How can I use reusable parts?" Those questions led him down paths that reinvented an entire industry. Or look at Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused as a child, written off by nearly everyone. She could have asked, "Why did this happen to me? Why am I cursed?" and lived her life as a victim. Instead, her guiding question became, "How can I use my pain to connect with others? How can I turn my story into strength?" That question didn't just save her. It created an empire of influence. Even in small, everyday scenarios, the questions you ask shape your direction. Imagine losing your job. One person says, "Why me? Why is life so unfair?" and sinks deeper into despair. Another says, "What can I do with this free time? How can I reinvent myself? Where is the opportunity hiding in this?" The first spirals downward. The second transforms loss into rebirth. It's not the event that determines your destiny. It's the questions you attach to it. I remember a story about a teacher who once told her class, "The answers you get in life will always match the questions you ask." She handed out blank pieces of paper and told her students to write down one question they asked themselves often. One student wrote, "Why am I never good enough?" Another wrote, "How can I get better every single day?" Years later, she reflected on those students. One stayed stuck, doubting themselves, repeating old patterns, while the other built a thriving business. The difference wasn't luck or talent. It was a daily question echoing in their minds. Millionaires know that empowering questions don't guarantee success, but they guarantee growth. They don't silence fear by pretending it doesn't exist. They silence fear by asking bigger questions than fear itself. Fear asks, "What if I fail?" Millionaires counter with, "What if I succeed?" What if failure is just a step closer to mastery? Fear asks, "What will people think?" And they answer with, "What will happen if I never try?" This tug-of-war happens in every human mind. But the ones who win are those who learn to feed themselves the questions that lead forward, not backward. You can see this even in sports. Michael Jordan, after being cut from his high school basketball team, didn't ask, Why did this happen to me? He asked, how can I become so good they'll never overlook me again? That one question lit a fire that turned him into one of the greatest athletes in history. The question shaped the destiny. So if you've been stuck, feeling limited, overwhelmed, or trapped, I want you to pause and examine the questions you've been living with. Are they shrinking you or expanding you? Are they shutting doors or opening them? Millionaires are not superhuman. They're ordinary people who made a habit of asking extraordinary questions. They interrogated reality in ways that unlocked possibilities others couldn't see. And the beauty is, you can start doing the same right now. You don't need money in the bank to change your questions. You just need courage in your mind. Ask yourself, how can I make today better than yesterday? How can I use what I already have to create what I want? How can I turn this obstacle into an opportunity? The moment you do, your brain will get to work. It will find ideas, resources, people, connections. It may not happen instantly, but over time, the answers will accumulate like bricks, building the foundation of a life you once thought was out of reach. So remember this. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Millionaires know the secret, and they live it every day. They never allow themselves to get stuck in dead-end thoughts. They don't accept the easy, self-defeating statements that kill dreams. They constantly push their minds into expansion by asking questions that demand growth, courage, and creativity. And that is why they rise while others stay where they are. Because the right question at the right time can change everything, not just your finances, but your future, your freedom, your entire story. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you attract by becoming more valuable. This truth sounds simple, but when you let it sink deep into your mind, it has the power to change your entire relationship with money. Most people spend their lives running after money, chasing paychecks, running from one job to the next, hoping for raises, hoping for luck. They treat money like a butterfly that keeps flying away the closer they get. But millionaires understand something different. They don't waste their energy chasing. They work on themselves, on their skills, on their ideas, on the value they bring to the world. And because of that, money begins to chase them. It is like gravity. A person heavy with value naturally pulls opportunities, wealth, and people toward them. Imagine two musicians standing on a street corner. One plays average songs, strums the same 3 chords everyone else knows, doesn't practice much, and puts out a bucket for tips. The other spends years honing their craft, writes songs that pierce the heart, plays with passion, and creates an experience people never forget. Both are standing in the same street, under the same sky, but one collects loose change while the other gathers a crowd willing to pay for albums, concerts, and experiences. It is not luck, it is value. People are always drawn to value, and money flows in the direction of it. This is why millionaires focus less on how can I get more money and more on how can I become more valuable. They understand that the world pays for solutions. Every dollar is just an exchange for value. Someone was hungry. Someone else provided food. Money changed hands. Someone wanted connection. Someone else built a platform. Money changed hands. Look at Steve Jobs. He didn't chase money by asking, how do I get rich? He asked, how can I create technology so simple, so elegant, so powerful that it changes how people live? The answer to that question became the iPhone, and the iPhone became billions of dollars. Jobs became valuable, and money followed like a shadow. When you think about it, the richest people are problem solvers. Elon Musk saw the problem of expensive space travel and asked, how can I solve this? Sarah Blakely saw the problem of uncomfortable women's clothing and asked, what if I create something better? Jeff Bezos saw the problem of limited access to books and asked, what if I build an online store that sells them all? Their wealth was not the target. It was the byproduct of creating immense value. This principle is not limited to famous names. Think of a barber who simply cuts hair versus a barber who learns the art of listening, who remembers every client's story, who create an atmosphere where people feel seen, heard, and renewed. The haircut is the same, but the experience is different, and that difference is value. One barber struggles to keep clients. The other has a line out the door. Or think of a teacher who simply reads from a textbook compared to one who pours passion into every lesson, who inspires students to believe in themselves, who changes the way they see the world. Both earn a paycheck, but the one who brings greater value creates ripple effects that money eventually recognizes, whether through promotions, books, or opportunities that find them. When you chase money, you become desperate, and desperation repels. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. But when you focus on value, money arrives naturally, sometimes even effortlessly, because people are always looking for something, someone, some solution to make their lives better. And when you provide it, you become a magnet. Jim Rohn once said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." That is the mindset of millionaires. They do not hope the world will hand them more. They decide to grow into people who can create more. They learn, they invest in their minds, they sharpen their skills, they expand their networks, they put themselves in positions where their very presence carries value. Think about the difference between someone who knows just enough to get by and someone who becomes so skilled they are irreplaceable. The first always fears being replaced. The second attracts offers, respect, and income. Consider the story of a young man who started in a small coffee shop, cleaning tables and wiping counters. He could have stayed average, done the bare minimum, and left each day the same way he came in. But he chose to learn every detail about coffee, where beans come from, how roasting affects flavor, how brewing changes taste. He experimented, he asked questions, he studied. Over time, he became so valuable that customers came not for the coffee, but for the experience of his knowledge. Eventually, he opened his own cafe, then a chain, then built a brand known worldwide. That man was Howard Schultz, the mind behind Starbucks. His wealth was not a result of chasing money. It was a result of chasing value, and money chased him. Wealth is like sunlight. It shines on everyone, but only those who plant seeds, water them, and tend to them with care end up harvesting. Millionaires are planners of value. They plan in themselves. They plan in ideas. They plan in relationships. And when the harvest comes, people call them lucky, forgetting that the soil was prepared long before anyone else was paying attention. Even in your own life, you've seen this truth. You've likely admired someone at work who always seems to be promoted, who always attracts opportunities, who always has doors opening for them. It's not because life loves them more. It's because they made themselves more valuable. They go the extra mile. They solve problems others ignore. They bring energy when others bring complaints. And without realizing it, people are drawn to them. Opportunities flow toward them, and money naturally follows. So the question you must ask is not, how can I get more money, but how can I become more? More skilled, more creative, more resilient, more valuable. Because when you become more, you attract more. The world cannot ignore value. It is magnetic, irresistible, undeniable. Millionaires know this secret and live by it. They build themselves like architects building skyscrapers, brick by brick, until they stand so tall that opportunities can't help but find them. And if you want to step into that same space, you must start with yourself. The job may not change overnight. The circumstances may not shift instantly, but the value you bring can grow each day. And as it grows, so will your wealth, not because you chased it, but because it had no choice but to chase you. Most people live inside a cycle they never escape. They wake up, go to work, trade hours of their life for a paycheck, and repeat. Day after day, week after week, year after year, they sell the most precious thing they have, time, for money that disappears as quickly as it comes. The truth is, time is the only resource you can never get back. Yet it is the very thing most people sacrifice in exchange for survival. Millionaires think differently. They understand that if you spend your whole life trading time for money, you will always be limited, because there are only so many hours in a day. Instead of playing a game of hours, they play the game of assets. They build systems, businesses, investments, and creations that continue to generate income even when they are asleep. They don't want to be paid once. They want to be paid forever. Imagine a writer who pours heart and soul into a book for a year. At first, it seems like endless work with no reward. But once the book is finished, every copy sold brings an income again and again, whether the writer is awake, traveling, or resting. Compare that to someone working an hourly job. They are only paid when their hands are moving. When their presence is clocked in, the difference is staggering. One form of income dies the moment you stop showing up. The other continues breathing long after the work is done. Think about musicians. A band spends months recording an album. The moment it's released, the music can play in homes, cars, and headphones all over the world. Royalties stream in from every play, every download, every stream. They did the work once, but they get paid every single time someone presses play. That's the mindset of creating assets. Millionaires ask, what can I build once that continues to pay me forever? That's why they buy real estate, write books, create businesses, invent products, design systems, and invest in stocks. They are planting trees that bear fruit not just a day, but for years, even decades. Contrast this with a story of someone who works 2 jobs just to make ends meet. They are exhausted, stretched thin, and no matter how hard they push, there is always a ceiling. Their income is chained to their hours. If they get sick, the money stops. If they want a vacation, they pay twice, once with the cost of the trip, and again with the loss of wages. Millionaires refuse to live under that chain. They sacrifice up front, not for another paycheck, but to create something that will keep paying them. Look at Warren Buffett. He once said, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." His wealth was not built from working longer hours than anyone else. It was built from buying pieces of companies that would continue earning year after year. His money works harder than most people do because he planted it in assets. The same principle applies to ordinary people too. Someone who buys a small rental property may spend months fixing it, saving for it, stressing over it. But once it's rented, every month income flows, regardless of their daily labor. That property becomes an asset, a silent worker generating money even while they're at dinner with family or asleep in bed. It is not about greed. It is about freedom. Trading time for money means you can never escape the treadmill. Building assets means one day the treadmill stops, and you can finally choose how you live. That's why millionaires endure the early discomfort. They may work harder than anyone at the beginning, but it's for a greater purpose. They're not building for today's meal. They're building for tomorrow's freedom. Even in small examples, the principle shows itself. A content creator on YouTube might spend hours scripting, filming, and editing one video. At first, it feels like work without pay. But that same video can be watched thousands, even millions of times, each view sending income long after the creator has moved on to other projects. Compare that to someone delivering packages. They get paid once per hour, but the moment they stop, so does the income. Which life leads to freedom? Which life scales without limit? Robert Kiyosaki often talks about the difference between working for money and making money work for you. The poor and middle class focus on wages, while the wealthy focus on assets. And the assets don't have to be massive empires. A single online course, a rental unit, a small business, a patent, an investment portfolio, all of these are seeds of freedom. Each one is like a soldier fighting for your future, even when you are not on the battlefield. The tragedy is that most people never step into this mindset because it requires patience. It requires delayed gratification, the willingness to work now for rewards that may not show for months or years. But millionaires have mastered that patience. They ask themselves, what can I build today that will serve me tomorrow, instead of, what can I earn today just to get by? That question separates the wealthy from the weary. Think about farmers. One farmer eats the seeds because he is hungry now. The other plants them, even though it means waiting, even though it means extra labor, even though it means trusting the process. At harvest, one is starving while the other is abundant. The farmer who planted created an asset, a field that keeps feeding him long after the hunger of one night is forgotten. Millionaires think like the second farmer. They know hunger today is bearable if it means abundance tomorrow. And perhaps the most liberating part is this. Once you create assets, your time becomes yours again. You no longer have to sell it just to survive. You can spend your days learning, creating, giving, living in ways that bring meaning instead of exhaustion. That is why millionaires are obsessed with assets, not just for the money, but for the freedom it buys. Freedom to choose, freedom to rest, freedom to give, freedom to live fully without being chained to a clock. So ask yourself, what can you build once that continues to reward you? What skill, what idea, what investment, What creation could become your asset? Because until you answer that question, you will remain a prisoner of the paycheck. Millionaires have already unlocked that door. They have proven that the path is not about endless hours of labor, but about planting the right seeds that will keep growing even when you are no longer watching. And if you start planning today, one day you too will wake up to find that wealth is not something you're chasing anymore. It is something chasing you. Growth is never comfortable. If it were, everyone would do it. The truth is, every person you've ever admired, every millionaire you've ever read about, every innovator who changed the world, all walked through fire before they tasted freedom. The secret that most people don't want to face is this: you cannot grow without pain. You cannot rise without falling. You cannot create without being criticized. Millionaires understand this at their core. They expect it, they accept it, and they move anyway. That is what separates them from the rest. Think about Thomas Edison. Thousands of failed attempts before the light bulb ever worked. Thousands of times he could have thrown the tools to the ground and walked away. People mocked him, called him foolish, told him to quit. Yet when asked about his so-called failures, Edison said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is millionaire thinking. The average person sees failure as an ending. Millionaires see it as feedback. The pain doesn't destroy them. It guides them. Picture this. A young entrepreneur launches a business. She pours her energy into it, sacrifices sleep, pours her savings into marketing, tells her family with pride that she's finally building her dream. But the first launch falls flat. The sales are tiny. Her inbox fills not with congratulations, but with refund requests and criticism. Most people would quit. Most people would tell themselves, "I wasn't cut out for this." But a millionaire mindset says, "What can I learn? How can I adjust? How do I turn this failure into the seed of my next success?" That's the difference. One sees the pain as punishment. The other sees it as preparation. And let's be honest, failure hurts. Rejection stings. Losing money. Watching people laugh at your dreams. Hearing your family whisper behind your back that you're wasting your time. It's crushing. But here's the question. Would you rather feel the sting of temporary failure or the suffocation of permanent regret? Millionaires would rather be bruised today than broken forever. They would rather walk through embarrassment now than live with a haunting thought of, "What if I had tried?" Look at Oprah Winfrey. Fired from her first job as a television anchor because her bosses said she wasn't fit for TV. Today, she's one of the most influential women in the world, a billionaire who reshaped media itself. Imagine if she had accepted the voices that told her she wasn't good enough. Imagine if she had let the shame of being fired define her story. She leaned into the pain. She chose to let rejection sharpen her instead of silence her. Growth is uncomfortable because it forces you into spaces you don't know how to navigate yet. It stretches you. It humbles you. It takes the parts of you that are fragile and breaks them so something stronger can be built in their place. Millionaires are willing to be misunderstood in this process. They don't need the approval of everyone around them. In fact, they expect to be doubted. When Elon Musk spoke about electric cars, most people laughed. They said it was impossible, impractical, a billionaire's fantasy. Today, Tesla is a giant that shifted an entire industry. Do you think he didn't hear the laughter? Do you think he didn't feel the weight of being mocked? Of course he did. But he pushed through the noise because he knew growth would never come wrapped in applause at the beginning. And this is where most people stop. They want success, but they don't want the pain that precedes it. They want the freedom of wealth, but not the criticism, not the nights of failure, not the discomfort of risk. So they settle. They shrink their dreams to the size of their fears. But millionaires, they stretch their courage to the size of their vision. Imagine standing on a stage with an idea you believe in deeply. Your hands are shaking. Your heart is racing. And as you look into the audience, you see people yawning, others frowning, some even laughing. It's humiliating. But what if that idea, spoken on that stage, could change a life? What if it could change 1,000 lives? Millionaires endure the humiliation because they know that the cost of silence is greater than the sting of laughter. Failure is not the enemy. Comfort is. Millionaires don't grow in comfort zones. They step into the unknown, risking failure, because they know that even if they fall forward. They use the lessons to rise higher the next time. They understand that resilience is a muscle, and it only grows by being stretched, torn, and rebuilt stronger than before. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes to ever live, was cut from his high school basketball team. Most would have given up, carrying that rejection like a scar, but he turned that pain into fuel. He said later, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." That is millionaire thinking, transforming failure into the very reason you rise. So when people laugh at you when you lose, when your first idea crumbles, when your bank account runs dry, when your family doesn't understand, don't run from it. Sit in that fire. Feel it. Let it mold you. Millionaires walk through that fire because they know it forges them into someone unbreakable. They know that behind every uncomfortable moment lies the version of themselves capable of holding the success they dream about. Discomfort is the doorway. Risk is the toll you pay. Misunderstanding is the shadow that follows you. But the prize? The prize is freedom. The prize is standing tall, knowing you didn't shrink back when it hurt, knowing you endured what others couldn't, knowing that your scars are proof you chose growth over comfort. And maybe that's the real secret. Millionaires are not people who never fall. They are people who fall and rise so many times that eventually they can't be stopped. They wear their failures like armor, their critics like background noise, their risks like badges of honor. They know that if you never risk, you never grow, and if you never grow, you never live. So when you feel the discomfort pressing on you, when the fear of failure whispers in your ear, when the laughter of others cuts deep, remember this. It is supposed to hurt. It is supposed to feel heavy. That's how you know you're moving in the right direction. Millionaires don't avoid the pain of growth. They embrace it. They walk through it. And on the other side, they find a life that most people only dream about but never dare to chase. And to the end of the day, money is not the finish line. Millionaires understand something most people miss. The real prize is freedom. Money itself is only paper, numbers on a screen, meaningless without the power it carries. The power to choose. The power to live life on your own terms. The power to wake up in the morning and say, "Today I decide how my hours will be spent." That is the secret behind the pursuit of wealth. It's not about owning 10 cars or showing off in mansions. It's about control over time, control over decisions, and control over destiny. Think about the average person's life. The alarm clock rings not because they are ready to wake up, but because they have no choice. They rush through breakfast, stuck in traffic, sitting at a desk, or standing on their feet for hours doing tasks they don't love just so bills can be paid. Their time is not their own. It is rented by someone else. Even their weekends are short-lived because Sunday nights are filled with the dread of Monday mornings. That is not freedom. That is survival. Now imagine waking up with no alarm, sunlight streaming through your window, not because you overslept, but because your time is yours. You spend the morning exercising, reading, or enjoying breakfast with your family. You choose which project to work on because they inspire you, not because you need the paycheck. You decide whether today is for travel, creation, learning, or rest. That is freedom, and that is the true goal of wealth. Millionaires see money as a tool, not a trophy. They know that the car eventually rusts, the house eventually ages, the luxury eventually loses its shine. But the ability to live life by design never fades. Freedom means you no longer make decisions out of desperation. You make them from a place of choice. You're no longer asking, "Can I afford this?" Instead, you ask, "Do I want this in my life?" That's a different kind of power, a different kind of peace. Take the example of someone who builds passive income through investments. In the beginning, it's not glamorous. They sacrifice nights out, vacations, short-term pleasures, pouring resources into assets. Their friends laugh, saying, "Live a little." But years later, those same friends are stuck in jobs they hate, while the investor is free, traveling, spending time with loved ones, pursuing passions, and giving generously. That's the reward. The real luxury is freedom from financial worry, the quiet confidence of knowing you never have to trade time for survival again. Think of someone like Chris Gilbo, who wrote the $100 Startup. He built a life of travel and adventure, Not because he wanted yachts and mansions, but because he wanted the freedom to see the world on his terms. Or consider Richard Branson. For him, wealth is not about the money itself, but about the freedom to create businesses that excite him, to challenge industries, to live on his island, and still have the freedom to take risks. Freedom creates the space to be bold, creative, and fully alive. Even those who are not billionaires can taste this freedom. A parent who starts a small online business that covers the bills suddenly has more evenings at home with their children instead of commuting 2 hours a day. A teacher who writes a course once and earns income from it for years has the freedom to spend summers traveling without stressing about expenses. A person who invests wisely in their 20s has the freedom in their 40s to walk away from a job they hate and pursue a passion project without fear. Freedom is not always about private jets. Sometimes it's simply about reclaiming your time, your energy, your choices. The irony is that many people chase money as if it's the ultimate prize, only to realize too late that money without freedom is another form of prison. How many wealthy executives have millions in the bank, but no time to enjoy it? Their schedules are suffocating. Their health is crumbling. Their families are strangers to them. They are rich in money, but bankrupt in freedom. True millionaires know that money must serve life, not consume it. That's why they design their lives around freedom first. Imagine the freedom of being able to walk away from toxic environments. The freedom to say no without fear. The freedom to choose work that excites you, relationships that uplift you, places that inspire you. That's what wealth buys, not the object itself, but the choice behind it. The choice to live fully, not in chains. Nelson Mandela once said, "To be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." Millionaires who understand freedom know it's not just about themselves. They use their wealth to lift others, to create opportunities, to give generously. True freedom multiplies. It creates ripples that free others from hunger, from lack, from despair. That's why so many wealthy people devote themselves to philanthropy. They are no longer trapped by survival, so they can focus on contribution. The essence of freedom is peace of mind. It's waking up without the weight of bills crushing your chest. It's having the freedom to give your child the education they deserve, to take care of your parents when they're old, to say yes to experiences that light up your soul. It's the quiet moment when you realize you are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are the author of your story. This is why millionaires endure the struggles, the risks, the failures. They know money is temporary, but freedom lasts. They know the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the discomfort are all worth it when they finally wake up and live by choice instead of by force. Freedom is the real wealth, the currency of life. And here's the truth. You don't have to be a millionaire in the bank to think like one in spirit. You can start building freedom today by asking different questions, by shifting from how much can I earn to how much control can I gain over my time? Every step you take toward assets, toward independence, toward self-created value, is a step closer to freedom. Millionaires simply take more of those steps, consistently, relentlessly, until they no longer walk inside someone else's plan for their life. They live their own. In the end, the secret is simple. Money is only the vehicle. Freedom is the destination. And once you taste freedom, you realize it was never about the numbers in your account. It was about the power to live, love, and give without fear. That is the true goal. That is the hidden treasure. That is the reason millionaires think differently as, oh, here we are, standing at the edge of a choice. You've heard the truth. You've seen the difference. You know now that millionaires don't rise by chance. They rise by mindset. And the question that matters most is not, will it work for me? But, am I willing to think differently, to act boldly, to live courageously? Don't wait. Don't delay. Don't let another year slip through your fingers while you whisper excuses to yourself. Every moment you hesitate, your dreams drift further away. Every day you wait, someone else is building what you could have built. The time is now. The choice is yours. Decide to think bigger. Decide to step into discomfort. Decide to chase freedom instead of security. Decide to live a life that is more than survival, more than routine, more than waiting for weekends. Because freedom will not come to those who wait. It will only come to those who dare. Say it with me. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more chains. You are not here to live small. You are not here to trade your time away until nothing remains. You are here to rise, to build, to create, to live fully alive. The secret mindset of millionaires is not hidden in their bank accounts. It's hidden in their courage. And that same courage already lives inside you. So rise today. Begin today. Act today. Because the world doesn't need another dreamer who waits. It needs a doer who dares. And if you dare to think differently, to act differently, to live differently, then one day the world will look at you and ask the same question you once asked of others. What's their secret? Here's the truth. There is no secret. There is only a choice. And the choice is yours to SO from this moment. I challenge you. Stop asking, can I afford this? Start asking, how can I create the value to make this possible? Stop saying, it's too risky. Start asking, what's the cost if I never try? Stop waiting for the perfect time. Start creating it. Because the secret mindset of millionaires is already within you. It's not about being born rich. It's about being bold enough to think rich. And when you change the way you think, you change your life forever. The secret isn't money, it's mindset. And the moment you change your mindset, you change your entire life. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.